Today's Bible class, we're in the book, and we're going to be like page 14. It's chapter 2, and it's speaking about indispensable qualities for today's leader. Indispensable qualities for today's leader. And if you've been following along in the book, it's got this plan for my personal family and devotion, and it lists all these scriptures here. I would admonish everybody to just to go back down and read all those scriptures. But before we get started, so I always like to define what are we talking about when we say indispensable. Indispensable. Your own personal definition. Indispensable. Something that can be done without. Okay? Anyone else? Indispensable. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm. Right. I kind of define it as signifies something absolutely necessary and essential. Something absolutely necessary and essential. So now we got indispensable. Then when we kind of understand what qualities are, but we all have various qualities about us. And those qualities that we have, would you say that that makes your character? Does your qualities make your character? Or your character make your qualities?
It could be either way, but
It could be interchangeable. Huh? Okay, so then we're talking about leaders. Now here we go. Now, this definition for a leader. What would be your definition of a leader? Come on now. A definition for a leader.
well, you're just throwing it out there, right?
Uh-huh.
Because, first of all, in terms of a definition for a leader, you got to first be able to listen. You got to be able to listen before you can apply anything to see exactly what the needs are. You got to be you got to be a person who can accept criticism
Okay.
as well as give demand. That's all a part of leadership. But you got to first, like I said earlier, you got to first analyze the situation before you can speak or anything.
Anyone else? Clea?
What I would say also, piggyback off of anything, you have to be a good communicator, a good listener. Also, a leader needs to show a little bit of control, not overly, but he needs to show control. He needs to respect the person of his knowledge and how forceful it is when he tells you to do things.
Well, you know that a good leader has to be a good follower. You just can't lead without following. It doesn't work that way. All throughout biblical history, you will see that that was the case. But Shane.
Go ahead, finish it.
No, go ahead.
No, just thinking that what a leader is someone who can inspire a group to reach a common goal, to me, you know. Again, that person, the leader doesn't necessarily have to do it, but they can set that vision and then they can inspire a group to reach a common goal.
Okay, so then there we go back to that term we were talking about, qualities. So all good leaders have certain characteristics or certain quality. I think we've hit on a couple of them, but we'll expound on them more in just a second. But Swin.
And I also think that maybe it's part of what they're saying. I think a good leader has to be able to listen and respect the thoughts and ideals of others. It's not, sometimes you're a leader because you were fortunate enough to be put in that position. Not that you're necessarily that far advanced over other people. And in order to continue, because once you show that you're not willing to listen to the ideas and the thoughts of others, what do you think people are going to start doing? They're going to work, in my opinion, they're going to start to work against you. No, I don't think the leader should take everything that somebody else tells him, but at least take what they're saying, put it in your supply. It might not apply today, but save it for later. You know, and be willing to work with those guys who you have been entrusted to lead. I don't have a problem being led as long as you leading. They're with me.
All right.
Don't be gone and then expect me to come on. I want you to be there with me.
Okay. Brother Joe.
A good leader has to know where they're going, have a plan or vision to get there, and because they have been a follower, they know how to motivate the people to follow them.
Okay, I agree. I did some key qualities there. I think one has to have humility. Will be one of them. You have to be able to be humble. You also have to have some wisdom along with that. I say wisdom, knowledge, and understanding about what you're leading. I say some courage, because if the people don't see you strong, then how are you going to encourage them? So I think there's going to be some courage has to be there. Integrity. I say a servant leader. So a servant leader is going like, it's not all about me. It's not my will, but God's will. And we speak from a biblical term, not like on your job or your position on your job, but from a biblical perspective, that's where we're coming from on this. And of course, you always have to lead by example. And you have to be accountable for what you're leading. If you're leading and something go wrong and it's on your watch, you're responsible for it. So in the introduction, does everybody have a book? Most of everybody? Okay, I have to read something here.
You have three?
Hmm?
I thought you had 3 books.
No, I'm just going to read something. So in the introduction, it says, the congregation will take on the personality of their leader. My goodness. The personality of their leader. Hence, this is a vital study. Simply holding an office does not make a leader any more than begetting children makes a father. A congregation might have elders. A congregation might have elders but have no leaders. A congregation might have a preacher but have no preaching. The point, there are indispensable that must be possessed, without which there's no leadership. What are they? And some of those scriptures that we always go back and in the devotion of when we were studying, 1 Timothy 3, talks about the office of a bishop. Titus 1:5, it talks about grace, mercy, and peace. And First Peter talks about the elders and how to exhort them. So, Hebrews 13:7, remember them which have ruled over you. We don't want to say that the leader is one that rules with an iron fist, but you have to be courageous and you have to be strong. And I'll use this terminology that if I use the term martial arts because we do, that's one of would be my hobby. But if three guys are coming at you, you know, and one of them is going to always be that one to think he's the baddest, he's the toughest, and he's the one that's going to be to make the first move. You take him first, you drop him. The other two going to think something different, and they're going to do it because they were really going by him. He was, you know, he was the ringleader in it. So without the ringleader, there's no game there. So they just kind of dispense. Leaders have to be strong and have to be willing to get down in the trenches and fight for what they're trying to lead. Would you agree? So that means you just can't be pushing paper and delegating things around. You have to lead by example. You can't be telling people to do it and they don't see you doing it. And some leaders do. They just delegate. And some like to be hands-on. And so every leader, there's different qualities. It's not to say that everybody's going to lead different. Every leader is not going to be. They want to establish their own way of leading in here. So you guys, you come on and jump on in there at any time with any comments or whatever you might have to say.
Can we examine our current president and what he has as a new leader, or what he lacks?
Would you say he's a leader?
All the characteristics you just mentioned, he doesn't have.
But he thinks he has, though.
He thinks he has, right?
Yeah.
Other people, because of fear, won't say anything that he isn't qualified for the position.
Well, in that, just amazing is that you know and you don't disagree with him, but you still following him.
Right.
If the blind lead the blind, they all going to fall in the ditch. Go ahead, Ted.
You know, when I think about leadership, just from my business perspective, and I know we say this term, and it is true, I do believe you have to lead by example, but if I am always doing what I have entrusted somebody else to do, then I won't be able to move forward on something, another project, or even go do another bid for something else. And so I think that it's important as a leader that you are training your individuals who are under your oversight to get the job done and with the expectations you have them to do. Again, I just see that, I mean, I've used that term before, hey, you gotta lead by example, lead by example. Yeah, you lead by example, that is definitely true, but you're going to have to allow the people who are under your oversight to be able to execute what your expectations are.
Okay.
If not, you'll find yourself always doing it. I mean, if I touch every single piece of freight or pallet or furniture, then what am I paying y'all for? You know, if Brother May cooked every piece of chicken in the chicken house, what? I mean, if he needs to be doing other projects.
Right. Okay, I got you. Billy O.
That's part of being a leader, knowing when to step in and when to step out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When to go ahead and do it, and you gotta go in there and literally show up sometime what to do and then step back. But that's part of being a leader, you know, when to step in and when to step out. Like the program on television tonight, the cop show. right, because that's the reason they pay y'all the big bucks. You know what I mean?
Okay, Brother Sweat.
Cliff, and he just made a valid point. One of them is, I know when I was on my job, the guy trusted me to be a leader under his leadership. And I became very dependent on him. So when someone would come in and ask me to do something, tell me they needed something done, I would write it down. And then I would go to him. And I'd tell him what they told me. And then I said, well, how much you think we're gonna charge? How much you gonna charge? How much you gonna charge? And he carried me for a while. Finally, one day he walked in my office and he said, hey, I gave you this job based on so and so and so. He was still being a leader. But he was teaching me how to really lead as well. And he said, but the thing is, if I'm gonna do it, if I gotta keep doing it all, why do I need you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the deal. And we see that thing about that eagle. She takes the little eagle up and keeps dropping it down. After so many times, she let it go. It's either fly or die. And what I think a good leader has to be able to delegate stuff, but still they kind of, they watch it not to the point to where but don't give me a job. Trust me to do it, and then do it. Like now, you're doing a really good job as a teacher. But how would you feel if Brother May and if Joe and whoever, Brother Carson, and they just sat in here and just took over your class? How would that be? They trust you to teach it, let you teach it.
Okay, I understand that. Brother Deere.
I have a good friend of mine, he made a good point. I have a good friend of mine that does a lot of contracts for the city of Dallas and TxDOT, the tollway people. And he's always out there, he gets the contracts. He's always out there with them. And he was explaining to me the other day that he said, I can't keep doing this. I gotta be able to go out and get other jobs. And I was explaining to him, you have to entrust other people that you hired to get the job done. It may not be done exactly the way you want it, but you have to get somebody around you that you can trust to get the job done. You can't be 24/7. You can't be in the office. You can't be out there getting subs together. You can't be ordering the concrete and all that other stuff. You have to have some kind of leadership to tell them, hey, I need you to take care of this. Because you can't be at one job and the job overlaps another job because you're out there working all the time. You're not making the money that you should be. So a good leader is someone who can delegate authority to other people to get the job done while you expanding your business. So that's what a good leader is.
Okay.
I find myself that way too. Sometimes I don't let nobody do. I have an issue with that. That's one issue that I have. Sometimes I feel like when I'm running the business,
You in charge.
yeah, the choice is my money.
Understandable. But all leaders, some leaders are appointed leaders. So would you think a leader needs to have experience before he become a leader?
Like as military, they trained. They picked the biggest one as the leader. That was his qualification. He was the biggest one of us. And he put it up in charge.
Yeah. Because I say that because some people say we can use a job. They like your personality. They like some of your characteristics. And they say, we're going to appoint you to be lead. Okay. Go ahead.
I think on the spiritual side, the Bible tells us, we desire the work. I mean, you doing the work before you be put in that position. So you have to desire the work. You have to know what all entails, what the deal is,
Right.
what the position is. So you will have a desire to do it. You won't I'm gonna file this month, the next month I'm gonna be out of this situation. I got too many complaints.
I got too many hits, too many negative hits me all at one time.
All right.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Right.
yes, that's where the experience comes in. This is where all the experience comes in. Don't just sit back, or you just want position because it's open, or you feel like because you in the worldly side, you're a leader. You over a bank, you over this, you over that. And the church will be that way.
Right.
Because people get that position confused with church responsibility and the world responsibility. We don't follow up on that type of leadership.
Okay. Brother Wilson.
So, yes, also being a leader, you have to have the right personality too, and treat how, it goes a long way how you treat people. Because on my job, I worked there 29 years, and I started off as a lead man. And I worked my way up all the way to a production manager. But I started off as a lead man, and the lady that owned the company, she came out and worked with us for a week, because we had a lot of work. We worked 28 days in a row. And she saw how I treated people, and she told me, she said, Wilson, if I had to work up under someone, I hope they treat me the way you treat people. And she owned the company. She was a millionaire. I mean, multi-millionaire.
Right.
And, but that goes a long way how you treat people too, and your attitude.
You're right. So, Brother Gillard, did you have?
It was kind of along the lines of what Joe was saying, just in terms of from a spiritual standpoint, just in reflection. Any job that I've had, whether it be at Citibank or Bank of America or Chase, I was already kind of doing the job. I was exceeding expectations, and then that's why someone taps you on your shoulder and say, hey, you know what? You're exceeding expectations, and I think you should go to this particular function, as well as with the church. I mean, for eldership or even deaconship or even as men, we got to be performing in what the task is, even before you're actually kind of given the role. I mean, just to give an example of an elder, if you're not going to pray with somebody before you're an elder, what makes you think because you're an elder, you're going to start praying with somebody? I mean, it's just, those are types of things that I think that we want to make sure that as a leader that we're considering. Whatever, even if it doesn't, and to be honest with you, in the church, as Joe said, it's not the same as the world. It don't even take a title to do that. You don't have a title, to do what's right for the Lord.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Every one of us in here are leaders.
Oh, yeah. But I would say one of my favorite, it asked this question in here too, like, who was your role model? Who was the person that you copied after? As that, who is your pattern? And for me, one of mine besides, Christ, would be Stephen. He was this person supposed to be waiting on tables. But he took that word and wound up being a martyr. He wasn't Apostle Stephen. He wasn't Bishop Stephen. And he was to be a servant. But he wound up being a martyr for it. And even when they were stoning him, Lord, forgive them. Lord, forgive them. That's tough, to do. But that mentality, Joshua, those ones. So we all have different role models that we have, and we're not saying like we know your father or whatever. But I'm saying from a spiritual standpoint, because this all comes back to the Bible. And so we have to know what the Bible is saying. And you just can't, just because you run a successful business where you are, don't mean that you can come in here and run that same business the same way, the church, the same way you run that business. Brother Baptist.
Best elder
Right. Well, I'm going to drop down here to today's leaders are followers. By example and exhortation, we are taught to be followers. Successful leadership depends on successful fellowship. Wow. Good teachers are the best students, and the best leaders are the best followers. And then that's where they say, who's your pattern, who's your copy, who's your role model there. But on the next paragraph, I'm going to skip down. It said, leaders cannot lead where they do not go anymore. Leaders cannot lead where they do not go any more than they could come back from where they have not been. Man, that is a strong statement. Leaders cannot lead where they do not go anymore. So the leader, you have to have some type of direction. You can't just, as they use that phrase, fly by the seat of your pants or shoot from the hip. Because you have to know what the aim is. You have to know what the goal is. If you don't know what the goal is, how are you going to lead the people to?
That goes back to where one of my favorite sayings that you don't expect what you don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that in order to know what to do next.
Right.
You should go that direction again.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, in this lesson number 2, there's going to be a lot of things about, elders in the church and bishops or leaders in the church, because that's what we look at nowadays from the church point, elders, bishops, and ministers in the church. So we're going to be really studying a lot of that in this. So I just wanted us to throw that out there. So when we get to talking about elders, it's not to pinpoint all our elders. We're just going from kind of whole from it. So in there, when we're talking about that role, it said elders are to so live that their faith can be followed. So it's like saying lead by an example. The Bible leaders so lived, they had noble attitudes towards the truth and the church. If you're a leader and you're saying don't do this, and people see you doing what you say that you want me not to do, then how does that reflect you as the leader? They're going to look at you going like, he telling us to do it, but he don't live up to it. So then we come back to that phrase, you have to practice what you preach or teach or speak. A lot of times with leadership, there's that little word, ego. Ego. Some could say that ego is edging God out. Edging God out. Because that's what a lot of times we get caught up in ourselves to where God is not the example. And in that case, when we're doing that, all right, Newhouse, I'm just looking. I just want to make sure that he covered up because I told him not to come up here with no pick line. But so that's what we have to do. You can't edge God out and be a successful leader in church leadership. The other way you can do it, exalt God only. So we're saying edging God out is when you get caught up pride. Some leaders are full of pride. I don't want to do it because they say my ego won't let me do it. This is the way I want to do it, and you make it home, and you're going to press that issue. But when you exalting God only, it's about not my will, but his will be done. And that's how successful leaders need to have a good example. It's always been like that from the biblical point. Even got Christ, as you know, how as much power and miracles he done, he was always going back to the Father. Back to the Father. And doing it. And he was that great example that we had for us. So if from a biblical standpoint, our example would be Christ. And there we go, we call ourselves Christian, but what does Christian mean? To be Christ-like. In there. So we have a good example how to lead and how to follow. I say without preparation, there is no restoration.
And brother teacher, you can't have that attitude, my way or the highway.
No, because it's about his will and not your will. And so that's the whole key to that. So there, humble yourself before the Lord. You know, you have to have some humility. When you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you made a mistake, you make that mistake. Brother May? Okay. So, I just want to if you have a book, go ahead and start, reading this, because it's a lot of things, especially if we're striving to be leaders, that we really need to study in this book. Appreciate all the brothers, participating, and that's what it's all about. When we come to class, we want everybody to be able to voice their opinion, say what they need to say, be a part of the class where we can all learn this thing together. You never get to that point to where you can never not learn nothing. So, are there any prayer requests? Okay, Brother Wilson.
No, just ask you to keep me and my wife in your prayers. I still go to the doctor every Wednesday and walk Hampton, and I got some good news last week, which I told them Wednesday morning out class. It took me off of 2 of my medicines.
Okay.
And I was taking one medicine 3 times a day with meal. But they told me not to take that medication but 1 time a day. And also my A1C was 5.5.
Amen.
So I can keep it like that.
Oh, yeah. All right, but that's a good thing, Brother Wilson, because God is still in the healing business.
Yeah, thank you all for your prayers for my procedures of last week, this recovery, and just, the Lord continue to bless myself and my family.
Okay.
My uncle had to go to the ER, I guess this morning. Just got out last week, so I asked her to pray for him. And she said my cousin also, she's in the hospital. Right for the days.
All right, Nuance.
Good to see everybody this morning. I just wanted you all to keep me in your prayers. I'm taking antibiotics still for my condition. So I have to do that for another couple of weeks or so. So I'm asking y'all to pray for me.
All right, now, we got you. Brother Mathis, I'll get you. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
I'm asking everyone to pray for me. I will be on vacation starting tomorrow. I'll be out for 2 weeks.
Okay, good. Also, I think pray for my wife. I think she lost her last uncle, Henry Jackson. Aunt Shirley's her husband. Yeah, yeah. I know. But they lost it. So keep my wife and the family in prayer. We'll probably be going down to Gilmer on next Saturday. The funeral is next Saturday. So we'll be going down to Gilmer for that part. Continue.
Continue to pray for my son too. He's in Washington D.C. at that police convention. He'll be up there all week, so just pray for him. They left yesterday, had a safe flight up there. So hope he have a safe flight back this coming Saturday.
Okay. All right then. If we don't have anyone else, continue to pray for my daughter. It seems like her one part of the cancer is kind of gone, but the other one is like full force, and it's getting bad, and she has to make some major decisions, and sometimes they don't want to make that decision, but you just keep her in a prayer. My thing is God continue to watch over her. Brother May, you want to close us out here?
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, which art in heaven, we surely thank you again for this day, a new day in our life. We thank you for our teacher this morning, have been able to discuss your word among us as brothers, and that we are able to continue to grow in those areas, to be able to make a difference in someone's life. We thank you so much for the great sacrifice you made. We truly thank you because you are God who deserves to be praised. We thank you for the present this morning among the brothers who made it known to you, as well as each of us that would be traveling, those who would be asking that you would continue to bless them with the setback that they've had in life. But some will come praising you because you've been good to them, and everything was a plus for them, rejoicing because you are a good God. You touched them in a very special way. It's really good to see our good brother in the church, in the house this morning, recovering from his surgery, and there's others also has made it known, dear Lord, that they will continue to depend on you because they're still in the fire. They're still fighting, and they need you. We all need you. And we just wanted to pause and say thank you again for being in this building with each of us. Continue to bless them and touch them in a very special way this morning, if it's your will to be. And we ask for all these things and give you the glory in Jesus the Christ's name. Let us say amen.
Good morning, gentlemen. We're going to do the order service real quick while we're in here. First of all, for the announcements, I have Brother Ron Swint for opening prayer. I have Brother Swint also. For opening response and for prayer is Brother James May, going down response for prayer is myself and Brother May. For responsive reading, I have Brother Joe Jackson. For scripture reading, Cliff, I'm going to take you off and add Brother Glenn Bosley up there to it. For main prayer, I'm going to have Brother Glenn Bosley. He's already up there, so he wants to do both. So we're going to let go with that. For communion, we have either Gary Aldridge or Brother Joe Jackson. Joe, I have you here twice. Yeah, brother. Yeah. So you may be doing double duties, but either Glenn or Brother Bosley will do the Gary Aldridge or Brother